The court has halted the Vha Venda King's coronation. This after the Supreme Court of Appeals is expected to make a decision on the Vha Venda Kingship. Well, for 6 years, the Vha Venda throne has been a subject of contestation between incumbent King Toni Mphephu Ramabulana and his niece Masindi Mphephu Ramabulana. Well, for more on this, we are now joined by SABC's Lutendo Bobodi, who is giving us more on the outcomes. Very good evening to Lutendo. Of course, former President Jacob Zuma has now been barred from actually transferring or conferring that kingship to the incumbent king. The coronation has now also been halted. How has the community received the news?
Thank you so much. We are here in just behind me is the Zata museum where the Venda people settled and established a capital when they crossed over from what we call to present day Zimbabwe, and just less than a kilo from here to the east is the King's Palace. And I can tell you, I was born here. I grew up here. 41 years on, I still live here. You know, tongues are wagging. There's no day that passes without people talking about this controversy. You know, it's wherever you go, car washes, work, school, people are not sky-liking. They are talking about this particular controversy. We spoke to people earlier, and particularly engrossing is the fact that a lot of women are supporting the incumbent, while a lot of men are supporting the Masindi. Does it talk to how far along we are in terms of the issue of gender? The jury's out, I'm not sure. The viewers out there and pundits may decide. But right now, people are expressing different views about this issue.
Now, on those views, we know in the application that was brought forward by Masindi, one of those things that was brought forward was that issue of gender bias as well as non-compliance of the process. That was from Advocate Dali Mpofu. Essentially, just take us through, you know, some of the things that were actually brought forward in Masindi's appeal.
I actually missed that. If you could repeat that.
All right, so if you could just take us through some of those issues that were actually brought forward in the legal application from his niece Masindi, of course, who had taken him to court with regards to the halting of the coronation. We do know that gender bias was also cited, as well as that of non-compliance of processes.
Yeah, you will remember that the bone of contention here is not really the issue of the throne. It is in essence the issue of the impact of customary law on women, especially in the rural area. You know that Masindi's representatives are arguing that when the Mphephu Royal Council said to anoint the heir to the throne, everything was based or premised on gender discrimination. On the other hand, the Toni Mphephu Ramabulana representatives are saying he's a male and conventionally, traditionally, he should therefore naturally sit on the throne.
Yeah, well, the incumbent King Ramabulana has also now, you know, if we move away from this, he's said to have alleged links to that very controversial VBS saga. Has this been brought forward in the case, and how are we expecting this to cause influence over the final outcome?
I'm not too sure if this issue was brought forward during the arguments in the court. But what I can tell you now is that people are talking about it. People are talking about the VBS issue. I mean, quite naturally, they will. If those who are opposed to the king continuing sitting on the throne are using that as a weapon, they are saying even if the king were the rightful heir to the throne, he would have to step down because he's now tainted I can tell you that just 3 weeks ago, the king was supposed to be a keynote speaker at a dance competition right in Thohoyandou. His own subjects booed him out of the program, and he had to be hurtled away to safety by his entourage. That is how far this saga has gone now.
Now, in terms of the coronation that is set to have taken place next week, which has now been halted, just take us through whether you've been able to speak to any representative from the king on the current pending outcome of that Supreme Court.
We have not spoken to any from these two families that are contending because a lot of them are now in Bloemfontein, where this matter was heard, but we have spoken to people, and they are also experiencing various or different views. It's a confluence of perspective. While a lot of them are saying, while we have to respect customers, traditions, and rudiments of the male being on the throne, times are changing. People are being progressive. Young people are getting education. They're expanding their repertoires. They like to be led by somebody that is progressive, somebody that listens, somebody that relates to their hopes and inspirations. Whether political or traditional, they want a leader that they will relate with.
Thank you very much for giving us some of the details around that. Lutendo Bobodi for SABC in Limpopo and Thohoyandou. Of course, a judgment being reserved in the VhaVenda Kingship and Coronation. Over to you, Francis.